and you play on one, but that's not really practical. So I think there's like a lot of interesting discussion, right? And actually, it's funny enough. I think you asked this question. This is also a side tangent of like how many people have actually gone out to eat since COVID. So I actually
Hmm.
grabbed lunch with Mango. I was helping him take care of his taxes, and we are just like talking melee, like what he said, like, and then like a lot of his discussion actually was like he actually. It's almost to the point where like he was offended at what Armada's a comment. This was before all the Twitter beef happened, where Armada was like, "Oh, the meta hasn't changed much," and I want to like hear from your
Yeah.
insight. Like, what do you think about that? Like, what do you
So
think about? Yeah,
it's funny because I talked to Mango about this. I was on Zane's stream and me and Mango were there and we were all like talking about it. I think he just finds it disrespectful. Is really what it is. I think he views it as Adam saying that they haven't gotten better. And he's like, "What do you mean we haven't gotten better? Like we've been playing this entire time. You think we're just wasting our time putting 8 hours in a day in and just like are worse than we were years ago? That's bullshit, right?" And he's probably very right, especially on a personal level. Like I think Mango is literally the best he's ever been right now, as a player. Right now, maybe compared to the competition, of course, he was number one in the world at one point, and maybe you'd argue he's second right now. But in terms of like pure skill, like I take current Mango over any version of Mango for sure, undoubtedly. Um, and also I think like especially seeing that this discussion is coming like from Armada, Mewtwo King, and Drug Fox,
yeah,
the three guys who are like retired, right? Like it's like the active players are just kind of like, well, um, you guys aren't even playing us to know, right? Like maybe you're watching VODs and you're not seeing it or something.
Do you
How
feel?
what
Do you
like
feel
you
like they're
can't
being
just
like Paul Pierce right now?
yeah, a little. It's like you're like retire and then you like throw stones. It's like what? That's not cool. So I see where they're coming from, but having said that, like on the facts of it, right? Like forgetting the emotions and the disrespect of it, is Armada right? And is Dragon Fox right? Has the meta not advanced? Would Armada still do insanely well? So number one, the meta has absolutely advanced. The saying that it hasn't is so absurdly wrong that I like actually don't understand. I would love to talk to Sammy to understand his perspective, but I'm already like 100-0 feeling it's wrong. Like it can't possibly be like it's so obviously wrong. Like for example, you saw Lovage, a player who played a few years ago, be surprised that Zane did a suicide down air trade with Firefox, right? During the Slippy Championships League. No one was doing that. Zane's doing it now. If you want me to talk about the last 2 weeks, I can tell you innovations that Zane is adding into his game. Just because I watched Zane stream all day, right? Like he's now using Mart's no impact land on Yoshi's story to do top platform text chases.
Yeah,
Top platform. No one was doing that. That was not a thing. That was not like an existing like mix up or part of the tree at all. And now that's the thing he's just doing. So like the idea that there is an advancement, I'm like, are you watching? I know Sammy in particular watched a lot, so I feel like I just need context from him to
yeah.
understand where he's coming from. Like I respect Sammy a lot, so it's like there's got to be something he's saying. Maybe he's talking about the overarching gameplay concepts, which that might be true. Like it's not like Marth has to get the grab. Like that part is right, correct about Fox versus Marth, but like the intricacies are really the things that are being advanced, and maybe he's talking about the macro play. Like it's hard to know with a Twitter context.
Yeah.
Um,
So I talked to Sammy actually a little bit. We actually occasionally talk on Facebook. I think there's two parts to it, right? And there's like the average level of gameplay that we see, which I think we all agree. Armada would agree, Jason Mutaking would agree, Sammy would all agree that the average level of play has gone up. Like the top 5 to 30 players, they make less mistakes. Like they're slide off teching, they're doing everything they can to escape combos, make neutral harder. Like I think they would all across the board say like that the depth of player skill has gone up. What Sammy's arguing is that at the tip top that there really aren't new things being added as much as people are claiming to be. Like that's Sammy's argument.
I just, but like you watch IBW and Zane in particular, like and Mango actually, like these guys are actually innovating so many things. I feel like I just see. I'm trying to figure out like how I could just keep rattling off like anecdotes of like different things that like I'm going into those guys' streams and talking to them and like having conversations with them and talking about things that they're trying to add to their game. And it's like, well, are those not advancements? Like if dudes are just adding things to their game that they weren't doing before, that feels like advancement to me, right? And I think, for example, like with Leffen, yeah, him going Sheik is going to cause a lot of advancement for Sheik, right? Like, guaranteed, he's way too smart of a player for that not to be true. And we are seeing him do some cool new things
Yeah.
in that department.
So like overall, like I think there's like a lot of little things that add up, and I think like when we look back to when Armada Mutaking and like when they played, like how many sets went down to like the last hit where they clutched something or went down to a game of inches. And when I look at like things today, like I look at like Shroom's like a good example, still a really solid player, but like every player he played against in like the Smash League, like he has to like do two extra things to guarantee the kill. Like everyone's good at escaping. They all understand DI. Like they all omps attack. They all slide off. Like they're adding these like little things that just make it like just that much harder to like do what you want to do. And I think that makes a huge difference now.
So Stairway 7 says, are advancements being made slower today versus like 2014? Honestly, it depends on the character. So like with Marth, for example, no, this is the fastest Marth has grown since like Ken, right? Like legitimately, I'm not even exaggerating. Like you have to go back to like Ken and like when Mutaking started doing his thing, to like when Marth got advanced to this level. And that's why a lot of us are excited about like where Marth's going. And you're even seeing it not just from Zane, like you saw that guy Acidex. He's putting out like single hit nair combos and like down smashes and like all this weird stuff. Force has always been a nut. Like there's a ton of new stuff that's just like with hitbox and things that you like combos you've never seen before that are absolutely coming out right now. So it depends on the character, right? Now, if you ask me, is Pikachu leaps and bound different? Like is Axe's game plan leaps and bound different now versus a year ago? Um, not in ways I can see. Maybe I just don't know.
It's like very minor at
Like
best.
I'm not a Pikachu god like Axe is, right? Like, but from my eye test and from what I know about Pikachu and from everything I've seen or heard Axe say, like he does implement new things, but it's not like holy cataclysmic change like I would say Marth is, right? Like Marth is and I would also say like there have been periods of slow advancement for Marth. Like actually most of Mewtwo Reign, like he just kind of did the same stuff
I
with
mean,
like
Sheik
small
was like that
adjustments.
too, right? Like for the longest
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, exactly. And until Plup came, right? When Plup hit the scene and switched to Sheik, that was like insane advancement on Sheik, like all at once, right? And that happens sometimes. But like, so it depends on what character you're talking about, really, because these things happen in bunches.
Yeah, and then I think like a lot of the mid tiers, just because players aren't playing them, like maybe there's like random players that are hidden bosses that are like advancing them, but I would say those characters aren't advancing as quick as some other characters. I think with like that being said, like oh god, I just had a thought. I think game plans are just getting way better, right? We're like pointing a lot to like the micro, right? Like slide offs, these little
Mm-hmm.
techniques. Like yeah, like Hungrybox may not be motivated. Axe may not be motivated because it's online. Like I think there's a mix of like maybe they're not playing to their full potential because it's offline and they're like focusing on other stuff. But at the same time, like game plans against those players have just gone better across the board, right? Like imagine a world where Hungrybox it was like, as easy as it was like 2 years ago. Like HBox would probably be more motivated, more excited, right? But like now like every player is camping Hungrybox or making it really hard for him to get the hit. So like is Hungrybox less motivated and does he appear this way because like that's how he actually feels, or is it because it's gone harder?
Okay, so there's a mix here, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So I think it's definitely a mix, right? Like for sure, this guy's like playing Minecraft Steve all week.
yeah,
This is not HBox in form. Like it's you'd have to actually just turn your brain off to pretend this is prime HBox, right? Like it's just not true. And
yeah,
you have to not watch the games. Like, look, he was our number one player in the world 8 months ago, right? There's no world that he falls off so hard that he loses to a guy like Azel. And with all due respect to Azel, like that's just not an HBox loss. Like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not possible.
But to be
That's just
fair,
not
like
possible. Azel did not get so much better in 8 months to get better than to be the number one player in the world, and it'd be a normal occurrence, right? Like it's just not a thing. So there's a mix here,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it might be an HBox specific thing, but the guy is not motivated. There's a bit of what he's saying is true, and he's being a bit of a wiener, but it's okay. Hopefully we get him back. Of course, I'm an HBox fan. I hope we get the clutch box back. He needs a dub, but I also think that like I think if you took current IBDW and you put it against Prime HBox, I'm not sure Prime HBox beats that. In fact, IBDW probably wins a lot of the time at least, right? So that's to say that okay, yeah, so people are figuring it out a little bit. So it's a mix, right? So people are figuring it out a little bit, but I think the majority in HBox's case, the majority of how I'd explain it is this guy's genuinely playing Minecraft Steve all day. Like, what do you want?
Yeah.